Dr. Webb, over to you for up to 5 minutes.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Mr. Chair, and thanks for the invitation to be here today. The Global Institute for Food Security is a government, industry, and academic partnership, and I'd like to begin my testimony with a critically important statement. Global food insecurity is global insecurity. Norman Borlaug noted, "You can't build a peaceful world on empty stomachs and human misery." Mr. Chair, at no time has this statement been more poignant than it is now. Global population is expanding rapidly, and we have the challenge of feeding a growing world with limited resources such as land, water, and nutrients, as well as other challenges, both natural and entirely self-inflicted, such as Russia's invasion of Ukraine, all threaten the resiliency of the global food system and our ability to feed the world sustainably. However, there's a solution to these challenges. In Canada, we are one of a handful of nations that are net producers of food, and we do so in a manner that's economically, environmentally, and socially sustainable. We have the food, fuel, and fertilizer the world needs, and our agriculture and food sectors poised to feed a growing world. However, to succeed, we need to support the industry with appropriate policies that enable us to take advantage of the opportunities before us. The previous two witnesses have mentioned the Barton report, and again, they identified the opportunity here, and the report's right. And so today I'd like to recommend 4 domestic policy opportunities that can improve Canada's exports on the global stage. First is around innovation. We cannot continue to tackle today and tomorrow's challenges with yesterday's tools and technologies. We need innovation to help deliver the greatest positive impact through our ag and food sectors. Unfortunately, Canada's innovation input does not produce the returns on investments we should expect. The most recent Conference Board of Canada report ranks our nation as 8th in investments, but 23rd in outcomes achieved. We need to remedy this situation by creating a coherent, integrated national innovation strategy. Innovation is a team sport, and we can no longer focus on revamping one part of the system without consideration of all areas involved. The next policy recommendation to drive major capital investments into infrastructure. We can't recommend a policy to improve Canadian exports without addressing the infrastructure to support this, such as rural wireless connectivity, our ports and rail systems. Investments in our infrastructure ensure Canada remains competitive and regain its reputation as a reliable supplier. Canada must own this. Third policy recommendation is around regulatory modernization through the creation of a transparent, predictable, science-based, interactive, and enabling regulatory framework. Our ag and food sectors are impacted by regulatory complexity and bottlenecks, which limits producer and consumer access to the latest proven innovations. A highly functional regulatory framework is a competitive advantage for Canada, and it builds trust both here domestically as well as internationally. We know this can be done, but it shouldn't take a crisis for things to work. Let's lay the building blocks now for modernizing our regulatory system to embrace a science-based approach that supports innovation. The last policy recommendation I'd like to highlight relates to sustainability. Canada is one of the world's most sustainable producers of food, and we need to be proud of the strides that we've made and how far we've come. Changes in agronomic practices, Dr. Fraser mentioned regenerative agriculture, such as no-till, variable rate fertilizer application in Western Canada, and in particular in Saskatchewan, have resulted in 22% more land being in annual production with the elimination of summer fallow. And remarkably, on the production intensity basis, farmers in Western Canada have decreased nitrogen fertilizer use by 28% per bushel per acre over the last 30 years. When we consider policy changes, such as recent discussions to reduce fertilizer emissions and by extension usage, we must consider the unintended consequences of such policies. Not doing so will paint an inaccurate picture of how sustainable Canadian agriculture is and will lead to public mistrust of our resilient and sustainable agriculture system. This will in turn negatively impact export opportunities. We need to lead the way on this, and Canada should not be following. One last point I'd like to leave the committee is we need to bring all parties together to the table to address these challenges. GIFS model of industry, government, and academia partnership embraces the best of all 3 of the stakeholders needed to advance innovation. We need to capture the wisdom of the room with all of the stakeholders. As I wrap up, I'd like to thank you, Mr. Chair, and the members of the House Committee for the invitation and the opportunity to share my thoughts with you today. I look forward to questions. Thank you.